While the Senate tackles tax reform, the House will take up another, perhaps more controversial issue: guns. The House has set up a vote on a bill that would allow owners of legally concealed weapons to take them across state lines in a more uniform way. North Carolina Congressman Richard Hudson is the sponsor of the bill. He joins us now live. Good to see you tonight.
Great to be with you.
Okay, so you know that this is controversial because, listen, the backlash has, I'm sure you've not been surprised by it, but tell us what the bill would do.
Well, when you talk about the backlash, Shannon, frankly, the American people are sick of liberal elites in New York and San Francisco trying to tell us how to run our lives, trying to tell us that we don't have the right to defend ourselves, defend our families. This is just simple, common sense legislation that says if you're a law-abiding citizen trying to do the right thing, we're not going to turn you into a criminal because you cross an invisible state line.
And that does happen to people. I mean, if they are able to legally carry in their state, there's confusion sometimes, and good people do end up with serious charges against them. But your critics include the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He says this: many states out west and in the South with lax gun laws let just about anyone carry a gun concealed. Under this law, if Wyoming or Alabama said any person could carry a concealed gun, they could come to Times Square, Penn Station, carrying that gun concealed. No one would even know about it.
Well, I hate to tell the leader that he ought to take the time to actually read the legislation, because the legislation doesn't allow, it doesn't dictate what states and municipalities have to do in terms of concealed carry. So for all it says is that the states have to recognize that concealed carry permit from other states. So if someone from North Carolina has a concealed carry permit, if this legislation passes, when I go to New York, I've got to follow New York's laws. They actually have a state law that you can't have a magazine larger than 8 rounds. I've got to follow that law. They have a law that you can't conceal carry in Times Square. I have to follow that law. And so the states and municipalities can make whatever rules they want to make. All we're saying is when I cross that state line, I don't automatically become a criminal.
Okay, so is it your take that the left knows better, or that they're confused about the legislation? Or do you want to take the fifth on that one?
You see Michael Bloomberg, who's the liberal former mayor of New York, who said he's going to spend $25 million stopping this legislation. You've got an official in New York who said that ISIS wants us to pass this bill. I mean, just crazy rhetoric comes from these folks, and it just makes you shake your head and wonder, who are these liberal elites, and what kind of world do they live in? Because what we're talking about is law-abiding citizens. There was a study done in Texas and Florida that showed that off-duty police officers commit crimes more often than concealed carry permit holders. So we're talking about law-abiding people who are trying to do the right thing to protect themselves, protect their families. We're not talking about criminals. And frankly, to believe their rhetoric, you would have to believe that someone contemplating committing an armed robbery in New York City is not deterred by the crime of armed robbery or the consequences of that, or the potential consequences. They're not concerned about the illegal weapons charge. What's stopping them from doing that robbery is the fact that if they conceal that gun, it's illegal. It doesn't make sense.
Do you think that you'll have bipartisan support? Do you have
Absolutely.
some Democrats that will buy in on the House side?
We already have 3 Democrat co-sponsors. There's a number of Democrats I've talked to who are planning to vote for the bill. We will have support. In the Senate, Senator Cornyn has a companion piece of legislation. He's long been a champion of Second Amendment rights. I'm proud to stand with him on this issue. But he had this bill, a similar bill, constitutional carry, on the floor of the Senate in 2015. And there were actually 7 Democrat senators who are still in the Senate who voted for that legislation. 5 of them happen to be up for re-election, if that matters. That may matter.
So you would need one more, obviously, to get this to the
need to hold the
House.
Republicans. We need 8 Democrats. I think the votes are there. We'll see.
All right. Well, thank you for coming to separate a little fact from fiction for us. And we'll watch this vote in the House next week, correct?
Absolutely. Next week. We're looking forward to it. And the American people, polls show 73% of the American people want this bill passed. They'll have their day next week.
We'll see that opportunity. All right. Keep us updated.
We will. Thank you so much.